Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have some exciting news from one of the new Vanguard events featuring DIVINEZ Set 1, and that is Girafull Vanguard Festival. We actually had 3 of the big decks coming out from this set. So Varga, Rezael, and Welstra make it to the top 16 of this tournament. So going to go through those 3 decks in its entirety, as well as some interesting results in the top 4. If you guys need any coaching, my Metafy link is in the bottom right hand corner. Feel free to book a session and we can get started on your Springfest season. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button for all notifications on this channel. So just going to run through, I guess, what decks topped. Most of these are like pretty normal. I wouldn't expect a lot of DIVINEZ stuff topping, but this first slide tells me that I'm completely wrong, right? So this is at the end of Swiss. So note that this is not the top cut. I'll tell you which ones made it to top cut and whatnot. But first seed was Shiranui, second was Varga, one of the new decks from DIVINEZ Set 1. I think Varga, in like just from paper value or face value, is a very, very strong deck. Being Overlord is just really good, right? If you're an Overlord deck, like you're pretty good in this format, yeah? Shamu coming third, and then Rezael, another one of the new decks from the new set, coming in 4th place after Swiss. Then from 5th to 8th, we had Shiranui, Roroa, Magnolia. So this is Magnolia Mask and Mygo. Then looking at the other top 16, so we also had another Mygo, a Prism, a Unicard. That is the first I've seen Unicard top in a very long time, if ever. One Luard here. And then the last 4 featured Luard, the new Welstra with the Divine Skill, Gotobun or Quintuplets, and lastly in top 16 or 16th place is Messiah. So the top 4 that actually placed in this tournament, first place was taken by the Prism. So this one here, yeah, that one there, that one I just skipped over, so that Prism there. Second place was actually the Magnolia Mask, so that's a deck that I'm going to cover just shortly. Third was the Shiranui, and then 4th is Mygo. But you know, those 2 decks, well actually the 1st, 3rd, and 4th deck we kind of know already, right? So just gonna go through quickly the Magnolia deck. Just gonna cover some of the slight interesting bits. I think Magnolia with this new PR is actually insane. So essentially what it says is that if you are on Magnolia Mask, it gains 2 different skills. So when it's placed on rear guard, you can soul boss 1, this unit gains +5. If you haven't countercharged yet, you can countercharge 1. And then this unit can intercept from the back row and gain 5k shield for each of your Dragon Tree markers, making this intercept absolutely fat. And I think that's one thing that Magnolia Mask really needed, was shield quality, right? Obviously, you know, you don't get the maximum use like, you know, Magnolia before had inlet pulse, but now you have this compensating for the shield value that you no longer have, right? Otherwise, everything else is just kind of normal. This essentially gets you back units that intercept or die. So this in conjunction with the PR is actually pretty insane. And then this I think gives Persona Ride to the back row as well. So making your little is it Rhino? Yeah, Rhino looking thing. That thing hits like 25, right? 25 plus the Dragon Tree marker is 30. 30 is a really annoying number, right? That's a 2-card guard. Unless you're playing front, but you're only ever gonna play maximum 4 fronts, right? So 30k is actually really, really annoying, yeah? So other than that, like the deck is pretty self-explanatory. Habitats to find stuff. I think they play this one, is that a blitz order? Yeah, it's a normal order. To fish stuff, and then obviously 3 mass and then 1 bracing ladder because bracing angel ladder because angel ladder is broken in a Shiranui meta. Maximizing on a lot of the orders to play the Zorga ride line, which makes sense, right? But yeah, otherwise pretty much everything else is the same. You know, you play the mass searcher, again another mass searcher, and then a way to be able to recur your orders, which is very, very nice as well. But otherwise, like this in conjunction with the glow dragon is pretty insane. The fact that you can just call out like what 3? I think it's call 3 or yeah, call 3 with different names, which is pretty bonkers, right? So yeah, just wanted to feature that one. But to be honest, we're actually here to look at some of the new stuff. So we're gonna look at Varga. I think Varga is a very cool deck. Varga actually is one of my most anticipated decks, to be honest. So just going to go through just kind of how this particular player built the deck. And funnily enough, everything in Varga actually draws a card. Well, most of it anyways. So looking at the main ace card itself, Varga, so auto Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can count +1, retire all of your and your opponent's front row. This unit, so Varga itself, gains +10, and that at the end of battle, you can stand this unit and it loses 2 drives, right? So you're essentially attacking the 23 base, so 2 drives, 0 drives, right? But then it also has a Divine Skill. Divine Skill is like V-Stars if you guys play Pokemon TCG, GXs if you played back in that era. It's a once per game skill. So auto Vanguard Circle, Divine Skill, once per game. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater Vanguard or unit. That's actually pretty important. Grade 3 or greater unit. So you can attack a rear gun and still, use the Divine Skill, right? If your opponent's damage is 4 or more, and this unit attacked 2 or more times this turn, count +1, stand this unit, and it gains +2 drives. So what that means is that you're attacking for 2 drives, 0 drives, and then 2 drives again, because 0 + 2 is 2 drives. Yeah, cool, maths. But the most important thing that it has to attack a unit. So what you can do is, because it has to stand twice, right? If for some odd reason, you know that the top card is an OT, right? You can go like this, attacks a rearguard, OT, stand the Vanguard, so you get 2 drives, right? And then Vanguard attacks Vanguard, then it stands to retire the front row, right? Has a 0 drive, and then use the Divine Skill to stand and gain 2 drives again, right? So that's like another thing you could probably think of, or alternatively, right? So you can go this to rearguard so that you don't proc the first skill, right? Hit the OT, stand it, right? Attack another rearguard, and then you get 2 more drives, and then you use the Divine Skill, right, to stand it, and has quad drive. So that's like, in like a perfect world, if you knew what the top card is, right, then you can do those shenanigans, which is why the second skill has this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater unit. Yeah, but if your opponent's smart, don't play grade 3 or greater units on rearguard and call it a day, right? So the next one is Boulder Axe Dragon. So this is the ride line, so to say. When this unit is rode upon, essentially call it out to rearguard, right? And that's really good because then this deck actually has very minimal commitment. And the second skill is when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Varga in its card name, this unit gains +5, so it's a 15k attacker, and then after battle, retire it, draw 1, right? Why is this good? Is that because Varga retires the front row, right? So you essentially attack with this 15k, retire it, draw 1, and then it frees up the front row, so you actually don't minus. That's very, very important, yeah? Then the next one is this grade 1. Essentially, it is a 10k attacker or booster, which is the second skill, continuous. The first one is if it's rode upon, you can call this out to rearguard and soul charge 1. Soul charge, obviously a resource that a lot of the cards need, especially because you're playing this old cycler card, the grade 2 cycler card. You ditch it, you soul loss 1, bottom deck, and draw 1, right? So just looking at the remainder of the deck, so you obviously play 3 more Vargas, because Persona Ride is very important, very, very strong in a Vanguard-centric deck. So that's that. This card is actually pretty interesting. So if it's in the front row, rearguard circle, if you don't have the same card name as this unit on another rearguard circle, this gains +10. So essentially, it needs to be a unique grade 3 in itself, right? So you can't have these two and expect to both have +10k, right? So essentially, as long as you have this grade 3 by itself, right, and you don't have another grade 2 somewhere else, this gains +10, right? But the most important bit is actually the second skill. The second skill is if you have a grade 3 Varga, then it gains boost, right? Actually, the first skill I forgot is that it cannot be retired, which means that it can't be retired by Varga's skill. So it continuously stays there as a 23k, and when your Varga attacks, this doesn't retire, yeah? So pretty strong grade 3. I actually thought there would be other grade 3s that, you know, Varga would run. But again, you know, 23k by itself, 33 on Persona Ride, and it doesn't retire itself is pretty bonkers, right? And also, you know, you can just push it back and, you know, have a 13k boost, which is like pretty cool, right? So that's that. And then the next card is Drag Ritter Shura. So when this unit attacks, you can Energy Blast 2, gains +5. Then you can choose up to one of your rear guards with a different card name from this unit, and it gets the skill, when this unit is retired from rear guard circle, you can put it back to hand. So the good thing about this card is that, let's just say you obviously don't have the grade 3, right? You play this, you target one of your other front rows because Varga's going to retire it. So when Varga retires it, you pop it back to hand, right? And that lasts till the end of turn. When this unit, well, the second skill is when this unit is retired from the rear guard circle, if you have a Varga, grade 3 or greater Vanguard, and if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, the cost is count +1. You can call this card to rear guard and gain +10. So you can see that Varga can actually generate multi-attacks, right? So what you generally would do is, like, you have, I don't know, another grade 2 in the front row, like let's just say the cycle card or whatever. You play this, give the skill to bounce to the other rear guard. The other rear guard bounces when you attack. This retires, you count +1, you call this out. So you essentially have 2 attacks, Vanguard is 3, and then you call this out. So then Vanguard is 4. If you use Divine skill, it's 5, and then this becomes a 6 attack. So it's a 5 attack deck straight up, right? Which is why I think this deck is really good straight out of the gate from Divine set 1. So yeah, it's very similar to the Gandiva grade 2, where, well, Gandiva grade 2 obviously searches top 5 and core 1, but the utility is essentially the same, right? Creating another attack, which is pretty cool. So that's that. Then we have the new Cycler card. So every clan, or every nation gets a new Cycler card. So this one is when it's placed on Guardian Circle or discarded from hand for the right deck, you can come up one or Energy Blast 3 and draw a card. The second skill is when this unit is placed on rear guard, if you Persona Road this turn, you can come up one or Energy Blast 3, choose one of your grade 1 cards without Sentinel and call it to back row rear guard. So this card is actually very good in this deck because you play a lot of cards that kind of get rid of itself. So for example, this card, we'll explain this card a little bit later, but essentially it's a Soul Blast 1, retire and draw 1. And then this card here, one of the older cards, when your unit stands, you can retire this and draw 1, right? So essentially, count +1, Energy Blast 3, or Energy Blast 3 to get a card that replenishes itself. Really, really strong, right? We also play 3 more of the Ride line just because it's an on attack, retire and draw 1. Like, it's just so good, right? So yeah, and then we play 4 of the grade 2 old Cycler card. Cycler card's always good. Bypasses resist as well. So you can play this, choose a column and retire everything in that column, so bypasses resist. Then we play 2 of these Impale Horn Dragons. So this player played this, and essentially it retires itself and draws 1. That's the most important bit, but I'll read through the skills. So continuous rearguard circle, when this, well, during the battle that this unit boosts, if you have a grade 3 Varga as the Vanguard, or grade 3 or greater, it gains +5. When this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Varga, so you want this behind your Vanguard, it gains +2, so it's a 10k booster, and then at the end of battle, you can Soul Blast 1, retire and draw 1, right? So generally, the good thing about this is that you can place this behind the Vanguard, and then you play the other, this guy, yeah, whatever this guy is, the mid hat. So you can play these on rear guard, right? You don't need to worry about, you know, placing this behind the Vanguard. So this is a Vanguard centric booster versus this one. This can boost rear guards first and then sack itself and draw, right? So that's pretty cool. So those are the 2 applications of these 2 grade 1s. You obviously run 3 PGs, 1 Sanctitude. This particular deck ran 2-2 heal split of the restanding heal, and I think that's really good now because you're playing a lot of restanding decks. So Varga being one, there's obviously, you know, Shiranui. Shiranui is a big threat. So restand heals are actually very, very good. Playing 7 crits, maximizing on fronts, And then playing the blue OT, I think the blue OT is just really good in this deck, just being able to farm Persona Rise. You actually don't need the Drag Vader OT. Sometimes you hit that, you deck out because of the amount of cards that you draw with this deck, right? But yeah, you know, if you have the Drag Vader OT and you like to play Drag Vader, then sure, put it in. Don't need to worry about the blue OT, but I guess the blue and the red OT is now more accessible with DIVINEZ set 1. But yeah. You also play one Chalice. I think this is correct because Varga really wants to see Persona Ride, and to be honest, like all the other slots are like pretty filled up anyways. This player played one of this Blitz order, so essentially you target one of your Guardians that doesn't have the Sentinel, and when it's retired from Guardian Circle, you bounce it back to hand. So if you have an OT, you can play the OT, play this order. So it's like 50k or 50k plus 10k shield, so 60k shield. Then you bounce the OT back to hand. So yeah, pretty cool, nifty combo there. And then obviously the Sanctitude, because you know everyone plays 3 in 1. If you don't have Sanctitude, you can play the 4th PG. No dramas there. So yeah, that is Varga. Very, very cool deck. Coming second in Swiss as well, which is actually quite surprising because, you know, I would think like a deck from DIVINEZ set 1 wouldn't have too much of an impact, but to be honest, Varga and now, you know, one of the best girls in DIVINEZ, yeah, you know, good treatment, right? Good treatment. So the next deck we're going to look at is Rezael. So Rezael is, I guess, again, one of the newer decks. I actually think this deck is quite strong. It has a lot of potential, I think. Maybe not now, but as the sets go on, it has a lot of potential. So just going to go through, I guess, each of the cards in itself. So this deck is a little bit weird. The way that they constructed it, I guess, tries to capitalize on digging through the deck. But yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense because you're Rezael, you kind of want access to everything, right? So anyways, let's talk about Rezael first. So Rezael, one of the key cards, the Divine Skill cards from the set. So when this unit attacks, you can Camelot 1, choose up to 2 cards from your drop with different grades, and the total grades equal or less to the number of cards in your damage zone, and you call that out to rearguard. So essentially, maximum you can call in terms of grade is grade 5, right? So 3 and 2, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 if you play grade 4s for some reason, but usually it's 3 and 2, right? 3 and 2, if you're at 4 damage, then it's 2 and 2 or 3 and 1, right? So yeah, attack, create 2 cards, 5 attack deck. Very good, right? But the Divine Skill is pretty interesting. So the Divine Skill, act Vanguard Circle. So Soul Blast 1, return all your crits from your drop to the deck and shuffle it. And this unit gains +1 drive. So it's a triple drive Vanguard. Really good, right? Until the end of this fight, you cannot ride units without Rezael and their card names, which is fine, right? It's a Rezael deck. And you get this red text skill. When your damage check checks a trigger unit other than a heal, if your damage zone has 5 or more cards, choose a card from your damage zone, heal it, and you lose this ability. So what that means is that it turns all of your triggers into heals the moment you take the 6 damage, right? Note that if you activate the skill, like while you're at 4 damage, it only procs when you're at 5, right? Now, a lot of people will be asking like, what happens if you check OT, right? So you check OT, OT will be converted to a heal, right? So you automatically heal 5 to 4, but then OT would get center damage and remove itself. So you actually go down to 4, right? You no longer stay at 5, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool interaction. But essentially all of your triggers become heal triggers, right? At the 6 damage, which is quite likely, you know, you go through your deck, you compress your deck, and then, you know, you kind of need to take a damage, hit a heal, oh look, cool, yeah, power to Vanguard, and then you just save yourself, right? So I think this is very similar to the application that Greedon has, but Greedon is in reverse, right? So instead of taking a damage, Greedon has access to 1 more damage, and I think that's very impactful because having 1 extra damage means that you don't have to guard like a 70k or 80k attack at any point in the game. Right? Well, at that particular point in the game, right? Obviously, you know, if you're playing Shiranui into Greedon, you just dominate Greedon and just win the game, right? If they're at 6, yeah. But yeah, Rezael, you know, same application as Greedon, very strong for an aggressive meta, and, you know, being able to just take 1 damage when your deck is compressed, you know you're going to hit a trigger, happy days. That's a heal trigger. You know, you save yourself guarding like 80k worth of shield, right? Anyways, going on, the grade 2s. The grade 2 ride line is when this is rode upon by Rezael, choose up to 1 grade 2 or less from your drop and call it to rearguard. Pretty simple effect, nothing too fancy, I guess. And then looking at the grade 1, I really like that it's a lot of Angel Feather. We never really got Angel Feather-esque art before. But yeah, when this unit is rode upon by the grade 2, you can call this card out to rearguard and soul charge 1. I think a lot of the ride lines are quite similar. And then during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Rezael, this unit gains plus 2k. So yeah, very, very easy. Starter to starter, cool beans, right? This deck runs 3 Rezael, of course. Not capitalizing too much on the Persona Ride. So as you can see, you don't see the Chalice, which is fine, right? I think that's a-okay. Actually, one thing I wanted to mention about Varga is that the Varga deck didn't run Bracing Angel Ladder, and that's because, you know, all of your cards on your board just kind of free himself up. Yeah, which is a pretty cool application, I think. If you're playing against Shiranui, you just kind of move your whole board away for when they, you know, go into their first stride and just negate their first stride, which is really, really strong, yeah? But yeah, going back to Rezael, you play 2 Sages. Being able to just check the top card of your deck is very strong, and then pretty much hitting over, you know, defensive is good too. Then we have this new Divine Sister Biscotti. So this is the cycle card for Keter. So when it's placed on Guardian Circle from hand or discarded for the right deck, you can combust 1 energy or energy blast 3 and draw a card. The second effect is when you Persona Ride and it's placed on rearguard circle, counterblast 1 or energy blast 3. Look at the top 3 cards, choose up to 1 card among them, put on top deck, put the rest on bottom. And then if it's not during the battle phase, i.e. during the main phase, you may call it instead of putting it to the top of deck. So, you know, good way to search or just to stack the top card of your deck. Pretty good, right? The good application about this is that you can combo it with Rezael's Divine skill. So, obviously, you know, you Divine skill, you hit the heal on 6 damage. Then, you know, when you attack with Rezael, you call 2, Biscotti, check whatever, and then, you know, if you see any normal units, bottom deck it, and then you hit yourself like a trigger during the battle phase, and then pretty much you hit battle phase triggers essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, yeah, I think this card is very, very good, and I think this card in its entirety will probably be very, very expensive later on. So yeah, make sure you get your copies for Divines. The next one, I actually rate this art a lot. This art is very, very good. I think when I saw this while I was on Different Fights Tuesday stream, I was like, whoa, this card is like pretty cool, right? Art is amazing. When this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Rezael Vanguard, counterblast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less and call it to rearguard, put the rest of the bottom deck, and if it's during your battle phase, you can put it to hand instead of calling it. So again, 2 separate applications, but quite similar to Biscotti, just being able to, you know, fetch cards, call cards. Yeah, really, really good, right? The second skill, order rearguard circle when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit. If you have a grade 3 or greater Rezael, you can soul blast 1 against plus 10. 20k beater, 30k on Persona Ride, happy days, right? So yeah, that is Nobia. That's her name. And then looking at this DBT 11 grade 2, actually pretty surprising. So when this unit is placed on rearguard other than by a unit's card ability, so this skill does not work if you use Rezael, right? If you play in a normal order this turn, you can soul blast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with grade less or equal to Vanguard, and then call it to rearguard, and put it to hand if it's a normal order, and shuffle your deck, right? Pretty much, you call from hand, soul blast 1, top 5 call 1. Easy as that, right? Order rearguard circle when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if you have 4 or more units against plus 10. Your board is pretty full, and most of the time, like, you run the dog PR to be able to sack itself, but you're able to like just generate a board because a lot of your stuff, you know, draws your card, fetches your card, calls your card, which is really good. So that's that. You also play Caldwell. So essentially, after battle, Soboss 1, retire this unit. I think top 3 add 1 to hand. Easy way to fetch. And then you play this old grade 2. So after battle that this unit attacked, you can, if you have 3 or more face down damage, you can put into Soul and Countercharge 1. A lot of your cards counterblast, so you know, a really good addition. Just being able to splash it in and get countercharges is always welcome. Then this PR, so unfortunately not yet, but English does not have this PR. This PR is really strong in Luard. So essentially, after battle, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, well, yeah, if you have more rearguards than your opponent, gains +5, sack itself, top 2, add 1 to hand, 1 to bottom deck. Really good because you can filter out all your normal units. Very, very strong card. You're playing 3-1 of the PG Sanctitude, pretty normal. And then there's this new card called Aerial Sage. Pretty ecstatic art, gotta say. So during the battle that this unit boosted, if you have a grade 3 or greater Rezael, gains +5, so 13k booster. When this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Rezael, discard a card from your hand and countercharge 1 against +2k. So 15k booster behind your Rezael Vanguard is pretty dirty, right? Like, discard 1, countercharge 1 is a little bit annoying, but otherwise, yeah, 15k booster is always good, yeah? So that is that. Then this deck plays 4 heals, 8 crits, 3 draws. 3 draws to kind of churn through your deck. Blue OT. I think blue OT is pretty common nowadays. You don't run the Keter OT because this deck would probably deck out. It goes through the deck heaps. So I think blue OT to be able to fetch another Persona Rider PG, yeah, whatever it is, it's really, really good, right? You play 1 Bracing Angel Ladder because this deck actually keeps its field, so you want to, I guess, use it against Shiranui. Then it plays 3 of the Minerva order or Regalia order. So Canvas 1, draw 2, call 2. That is less or equal or less grade as your Vanguard. So yeah, just being able to call stuff is good, and you know, you draw 2, pretty good, right? And then 1 Sanctitude, which is, you know, pretty normal. So that is Rezael in a nutshell. And now we have Welstra. So I think Welstra is pretty cool. I actually really like this deck. So anyways, just going through, I guess, the ride line itself. So the ride line has actually changed. The ride line doesn't actually run the old ride line anymore. And obviously featuring the Welstra with the Divine skill. So essentially when it attacks a Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 2, choose a product in your orders and operate it, and gains +10. Similar to, you know, old Welstra, to be able to operate your, I call it Ironcrad, the 23k that, you know, calls itself out and yada yada. But the Divine skill is pretty interesting. So act on Vanguard Circle, you can counterblast 1, choose up to 2 product cards from your hand and put them into the order zone. And if you put 2, you can choose one of your products to operate it. Then looking at the grade 2 of the ride line, so when this is rode upon, you can Energy Blast 3, choose a product from your, when this unit attacks, Energy Blast 3, and then choose one of your products in your order zone and operate it. This goes well with Engarten because you essentially create a 10k body on the board that disappears, attacks and disappears, right? The second skill is when it's rode upon by a Welstra with the Divine skill, you can Soboss 1, discard a card, choose 2 products from your deck and add them to hand with different card names. And yeah, that's just really, really good, right? The cards that you search from deck need to be different card names from the ones that are in your order zone already. But I mean, if you're, you know, going from grade 1, you're pretty much setting the 1 in Garten. So pretty much anything else is like kind of different. So if you're setting this on grade 2, which is quite abnormal because essentially you search for 1 when you get to grade 2. So you set the grade 1. So you want to kind of search the Ironcrad in my terms, or the Fortress, or this to essentially draw cards, right? But yeah, again, search for 2 products that are different card names from the ones that you have in your order zone already. Yep. The grade 1, so when it's rode upon by the grade 2, you can soul blast 1, search your deck for an order card and add it to hand, shuffle your deck. So you search for Engarten sets itself, and then essentially you operate Engarten on attack, call it out, and against essentially a free 10k attacker or booster, right? Just looking at the main deck, so you play 3 more Welstra for Persona Ride. So Welstra has 2 grade 2s, quite similar. I think this grade 2 is more similar to the Freyite guy, but essentially if you have a product in your order zone, this unit gains +5, so immediate 15k attacker, very strong. And then Riga, when this unit attacks, if you have a Welstra with the Divine skill, you can cast 1, choose one of your products and operate it. Just another way of battle phase operating, which is really good because then you can chain attack and just continually reduce power. The grade 2, this card is actually becoming very expensive, so you guys want to play Welstra, make sure you pick it up. So when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Welstra Vanguard, you can cast 1, choose one of your products in the order zone and operate it. Then the second skill is when a product in your order zone is being operated, you can soul blast 2 and draw a card. Really strong because essentially this card, you soul blast 2, you draw 1 when you operate, you bounce it back to hand to call a fortress, and the fortress attacks, right? Again, more ways to operate during main phase, which is really good, yeah? So that's that. And this guy, a staple for Welstra, when it's placed on rearguard, you can cast 1, discard a card, you search your deck for the same card name as your Vanguard or a product, and then add it to hand, shuffle your deck. When this unit attacks, you can soul blast 2, choose one of your products and operate it. So this card is just staple for Welstra from the time that Welstra started or existed until the end of time. This card is pretty much a must unless they print a better version or retrain version of him. Like, this card is just really, really good, right? So make sure you have your 4 copies if you want to play Welstra. Pick it on now because they're probably going to get expensive, right? Then we play this new robot, which is, yeah, pretty cool guy. I thought he was from Disney, which is, yeah, pretty interesting. So order rearguard circle, when a grade 2 or greater product is put into your order zone, you can put this into soul and soul charge 1. This card is very good, not because of the counter charge, but the fact that it souls in itself, right? So it puts itself into soul. Soul is a very scarce resource in this deck, and being able to do that is just very, very strong. Which is why we also run 4 Bulba Mine, just being able to, you know, after battle, put it into soul and counter charge 1. Soul is valuable, counter charging is valuable, and I mean, you usually boost like earlier on anyways, so like, you know, earlier on in your battle phase, putting it into soul, counter charging 1, and then you're calling out the fortress, which negs power anyway, so it compensates for the missing booster on your later attacks. You play 3 PGs, 1 Elementaria, just like every other deck, 4 heals, 8 crits. These crits are sometimes valuable, just being able to have 1 extra soul is really good, and then playing 3 fronts. 3 fronts is really good. You just call 2 fortresses, hit a front, and then watch your opponent cry, right? Your opponent's already like neg 20k, neg 30k, or whatever it is, at 5 damage, and your opponent just can't guard it. You hit a front, you just end their life, right? Then we talk about this big beam thing, yeah? So when this card is placed in the order zone, if you have a grade 3 or greater Welstra in its card name, you draw a card, energy charge 3. Energy charge 3 is huge, right? Energy charge 3 means that you can obviously have the access to the new Welstra because it energy blasts 2, but also the fact that, you know, you can still energy blast 7 and draw a card using the energy generator. So that in itself is very good. But then the second skill, when this order is operated during the battle phase by a Welstra with the Divine skill, if this card was not put into the order zone this turn, so it essentially has to be set for 1 turn first, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard, neg 10 power, and then if your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, you ping a damage. Pinging a damage is huge. Like, jumping from 4 to 5 is massive, right? So yeah, being able to do this like is just ridiculous, right? So generally what you want to do is you get to the ride line. Ride line finds 2. You'll kind of want to find this so that you know, put it in for 1 turn and you have access to the next turn. And then because, you know, during that time you kind of push your opponent already, and then you pretty much gap close from 4 damage to 5 damage, and neg 10 your opponent, which is really, really strong, right? The good thing about this card is that because it has to be operated by a Welstra Vanguard, you have sometimes, you know, an incentive to attack with Vanguard first, and then you use your this grade 2 or Freyite to essentially operate through the fortresses to call out, right? Because, you know, damaging your opponent from 4 to 5 is just ridiculous. So that's that. You play 2 fortresses, yeah. So essentially when, you know, you operate this big boy, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard, neg 5, then you can counterblast 1, choose one of your rear guards and return it back to hand and call this card as a 23k attacker. End of turn returns to auto zone. So yeah, 23k attacker when your opponent's like neg 10, neg 20, it is ridiculous, right? So sometimes, you know, you can go rear guard, you push them to 4, and then you attack with Welstra, ping them from 4 to 5, and then you just like neg 10 your opponent, you just get rid of the damage trigger that they hit. Like, that is just so strong, right? Then you play 4 of this grade 2. I think this is staple again for any Welstra deck. So when you set it or you put it into the auto zone, if you have a Blitz Vanguard, which you always do, you draw a card, Soul Charge 1. Both applications are really good. It refunds itself. Soul Charging 1 is always good. And then the second ability, when this card is operated, if it's during the main phase, you can top 5 call 1, which is equal or less to your Vanguard. But then if it's during the battle phase, you can draw 1. So sometimes, you know, if your opponent, you know, gets a little bit lucky, you kind of want to farm up, you just keep operating this card, draw. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the turn. Then the Engarten. Engarten is really good in the early game because it provides a card that is free 10k attacker for no reason, right? So the first skill is when this unit is put from hand or auto zone into the drop during your turn, put this card into your auto zone or soul, right? It's good if you use the old ride line to get rid of it, but otherwise, you know, if it's, you know, if it ever gets retired, it goes into souls. +1 soul is always good. When this card is operated, you can call this card out as a 10k with boost, and essentially it attacks for 10, and at end of turn goes back into your auto zone. So yeah, that is pretty much all of the decks. I think I rambled on for a while, but I think these decks are very cool to see, very cool results to kind of see straight out of the gate from Divine Set 1. I expect to see a lot more Varga. Maybe not Rezael just yet. I think Rezael will get better in 1 or 2 sets time, but I think, you know, Varga is really good. Welstra, maybe. I mean, whether Welstra with the Divine skill actually fixes what the issue was with the old Welstra deck, we don't know, but it's a very, very aggressive deck, and I think, you know, it might start making waves. So I think Welstra, a lot of people have been talking about this deck. I think it's pretty strong, but I think Varga, just from face value, is just really strong. It's Overlord with cards that replenish itself. Like, what more do you want, right? So that is pretty much it for this video. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of the new Divine set. What decks are you guys looking forward to? Let me know down in the comments, and, you know, maybe I'll pick up a deck and, you know, start playing. But I will definitely be picking up Varga because now is waifu. Now is the best. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.